How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Enterprise UI Development. So in today's video, we're gonna focus our attention is on to make a quick recap of how do we get here, but really quickly, and then finally understand how can we now catch is some of the dependency, especially when we need to actually spin up a CI/CD from the scratch, right? As a way to now run tasks like, hey, I want you to now is build the application to check that all of the changes that I already made to this code base actually won't break the app, and also to run the tests. And how can we is speed up this process, especially when we need to actually run this when change, for example, in like files, in when change on less likely files that won't need to change or they're barely changed, such as, for example, dependencies. So only when those dependencies change, now I want you to create is a fresh what I want you to make I want you to run a fresh run here. I want you to now run a clean installation, as long as the dependency changes. Otherwise, please continue to reuse this particularly catch of the dependency, so you can now speed up the build and test process. So as a way to now understand how do we get here briefly, okay, is, well, thanks to Steve Keeney. Oh my god, shout out to Steve Keeney as well, head front-end engineer at Temporal. All right, he previously also works at Twilio, that kind of thing. But now the goal of this particular course and in today's video, first is to see how what are the things that we need to learn and understand to make your applications maintainable over a long period of time with a wide range of contributors in large teams. So by looking at what are the infrastructure needed to help you to make your application maintainable, this is the end goal, the focus of this course. So by quickly and briefly describe how do we get here, because right now we are at this step, okay? This course is focused on the infrastructure, this basic installation that we need as a way to now know how can we maintain this large code bases. And when we talk about enterprise, anything that is big, huge, massive, right? So because of that, we need to understand what maintainability is for code base, and that is, well, we need to have the ability to add, to the ability to add, to change, to upgrade dependency, or to migrate or do refactor in your code, right? So is any of those things actually scare you, is because your code is not maintainable. So here, by looking at what are the things, what are the components of a well-architectured UI, this is most of the time is right now in today's this moment is that, hey, we need to have first is a static analysis. We need to have a testing system, as well as a build step, as well as in a static analysis. We need to also need a way to actually is encapsulate or to abstract or to put aside is logic, the UI logic from the business logic. Also, we need to have a design process, or the document is the process of how we're doing the thing that we need to do. And if you are building this user interface, you want to use is some of this CDN, some of these servers that are close to the user location, so you can serve this content quickly, content delivery network, right? And this is just to describe some of the couple topic that we need to talk about and that we need to understand as a way to now build this maintainable large code basis. And that is, first, by understanding is this pyramid of needs, right? And that is, well, that on the basis, we need to at least define is the system that we need to put in place, all right? And those systems are the testing, the building, as well as the static analysis, as a way to guarantee that maintainability. This concept of maintainability, I'm gonna make a quick pause here, is something that is different in any areas, right? So for example, the maintenance you have to do to your fridge or to your motorcycle if you have one, or to your mobile phone, or even to yourself, especially with your oral health, each one of them are very specific. Why I mention that? Because when you are facing a problem, it is important to describe what it is, right? And in this particular case, this is what we really care about when we're talking about is code maintainability, the ability to add, change, do a refactor, or update dependency without the fear of breaking something. So on top of that, then you got now the process. So this process is, well, things that you're going to do as a way to guarantee that, right? The know-how. So for example is the code review, which is a particular process, the design documents or the blueprints, right? So hey, how are we going to now integrate code here? What will be that particular process? The design documents. And on top of that, right, you will have now is what are the recurrent problems that you see anytime that you are doing this process, right? So for example, anytime you're doing code review, what is the problems that occur recurrently, right? So for example, it's like, hey, this person actually is trying to find a way to not integrate the code, or is not well aware of the application that is working. So for example, the state management or the infrastructure needed to set up the testing as well as the abstractions. And by abstraction meaning is that this particular pattern that we use as a way to now make our code much more easy to maintain. You know, it's like more fine-grained things that we have to do as a way that anytime that we find that particular problems, we come up with this common solution. It's a common solution to a typical problem. So that's why we started to look at first the unit testing. Okay, so everything went well because here we look at the spectrum of the unit testing. So you got now is the unit testing in terms of the unit testing as a way to check that a particular function work as expected. Then you on the other side you have now the end-to-end. This is very expensive, blah blah blah. There are also now alternatives to make these things much more feasible. So for example, replay.io is a browser that allows you to actually is now instant replay and that kind of thing, which is something very, very interesting. And on the middle, you have now this integration testing and component testing, right? So first thing first, we started to dive deep into what is the integration testing and component testing. So integration testing is a way of how all of this unit testing actually works together, right? And then the component testing is actually how your UI actually is work and behave when you spin up the browser. So because first we focus is on the unit testing, here we look at how can we use v-tests as a way to now speed up the test development frame or the test development here. some of the concept relevance to the unit testing, like tests, test suites, and assertions, and a more hands approach of how can we now write is this particular test and understand the anatomy of this with Vite, when you have now the test or it, which is independently, and what are the methods that they can provide, right? So skip if, or wrong if, or it fails, and the benefits of using now. There is something flying out there anyway. Yeah, there was a bag flying there, and then now how we is using this v-test. What is the reason we're using v-test and like instead of yes, which is another which is the framework that we use for testing our JavaScript applications, right? And how that now have an influence, heavy influence on the Java development, right? This Java development, or this Java application, that now they use something called like GUnit, all right, as a way to now develop some sort of practice disciplines when it comes to define is our tests and what are the things that we need to do as a way to test this. So that's very, very interesting. But yeah. But in any case, the point of this is by using now this v-test as a way to now write tests that are much more faster to run, because it's using now go behind the scenes, unlike Jest that is now using is JavaScript, right? So we have now fast build and fast hot model reload. HMR, it provides now ESM compatibility, which is now something that the JavaScript actually is using as a way to encapsulate this code, to modularize this code. We can use this Jest, which is something great. We migrate or Jest to Vite is very, very straightforward. It also now handle is the browser-like environment. Something that we're going to talk about that later. Improve error reporting, and now the configuration is very flexible. So here we look at how can we now starting to write our own first unit test. Okay, not gonna dive too deep into much. There's several concepts that you need to do, especially as a way to make sure that this particular test or function work as expected. And that is referential equality, value equality, and some of the most common or the greatest hits on the unit test, right? So for example, to be close, to be equal, what does it mean that to be, which is now doing a referential equality. Hey, is these two objects actually now have the same referencing memory, or these two functions has the same addressing memory? The to be, the to equal is, hey, is these two objects has the same, and to equal, hey, is this two objects has the same list of property and value? If it is, good, awesome. And this actually doing this now deep value equality. Also, we have the to be close as a way to check now for primitive, for numbers or floating points. Very useful, especially if you have now this 0.1 plus 0.2 thing, and this is because the way how this data is represented, that's why it gives you that huge number. With all of this decimal, again, go beyond the scope of this word. We also have the to be instance, to contain, as a way to check if this particular element now belongs to these collections, right? To throw error, useful when you want to check now if a particular function actually is evaluating some conditions. To match objects. To match as a way for regex expressions, or to match objects for object. And if you want to check now a specific subset of objects, you use this now object containing, something like that. uh, yeah, object containing, exactly, or array containing in the case of array, or if you just only want to check if the how do you put it, the type of a value here, you just use spec.any. All of this was very interesting. We also look at example of how can we start to write our tests, and in the discipline of writing this test, put everything at a glance. Start with the setup, then you starting with your testing logic, and then with the assertion. Okay, so this is for synchronous code. Actually, it's very straightforward. So for example, if you want to test now is Redux, which is this state management, it's pretty straightforward. However, things becoming now interesting here when we need to write tests for our asynchronous code, right? Or this sequence of elements, this concurrent programming. That's what we have now is, for example, techniques like using the async and await. In another video, I'm going to cover what this async and await actually means behind the scenes, which is a very interesting topic, and also vastly important on how you can use now the language as a way to provide you this concurring way, or this concurring test that will be executed at some points in the futures. And then once you get the value, which is the only thing that we care most of the time, you can now write that in a synchronous fashion, in a synchronous sequential fashion. The way how our brain now process all of this experience. The way how our brain now process things. So I also look at this another technique, spec resolve and spec reject. So far so good. And well, when you need to report a bug, a particular tip here is that take that bug, take the ticket, the problematic things, write a failing test, write a failing test to make it pass. Simple, right? Hey, you have this bug tick. Pretty straightforward. Oh my god, pretty straightforward. And when you come to handling is, for example, things that change, for example, timers or date. In the case of timer, you want to use that, for example, when to evaluate that a particularly UI widgets show and then disappear out of the browser, the DOM. So, for example, a notification as a useful case. And then what we really care in today's video, which is now building a CI pipeline in GitHub Actions. Again, I'm gonna briefly describe what this is all about, which is part of this continuous integration, continuous delivery. Remember, part of the way of how we can now maintain our code with in large code bases with a huge members in large teams. So this is now this particular process. So you have now this code integration and code delivery. Most of the time the entire workflow works in this particular fashion, which is you first plan what you want to do, but you first understand the problem. Otherwise you wouldn't able to actually plan anything. You first understand the problems, then you plan, right? Then you write the test, and then when it comes time to integrate that, you now run this code, build your application as a way that your application works as expected, builds it, and then run the test. And if everything went well, you now build an artifact, which is this new state of your code with this new changes. And then you pass now to a staging environment. This is now belongs to the continuous integration, continuous delivery. You pass that to a staging environment where it's close to production. It's going to run all of these particular tests that it needs to with production data. This is one of the things that a lot of companies actually say, hey, please don't test on real data or in production data. Don't ever think about it. And there's several guardrails and gateway to prevent you from doing that. And ultimately, then you release that to production. This is not the end, because now you need to actually operate on that, verify that everything works as expected, let your user actually do that, and continues monitoring that. So this is just to describe this particular process that at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. And then you implement new features and bug fix, and then try to build the airplane where flying, and extinguish some fires. And the way to now we can do this particular process is thanks to GitHub Actions. So GitHub Action now provides this particular YAML file. We look at the anatomy of this, which is a great thing. And here, because this is workflow, and this workflow allows to run is one or more jobs in your GitHub repo under the GitHub/workflow. We also saw how that things work in here, right? I actually forked that. So if you take a look now at this, of course, wait, what? Exactly. So if you take a look now here in the code, we add this particular GitHub here with the unit test. That's right, and this is something that now GitHub, when you deploy this to GitHub, you say, all right, so now let me run this or evaluate this workflow. So the anatomy of this workflow is that it's going to detect is now actions, or it's going to now run jobs based on events, whether it is a list of events that GitHub defines per your repo, all right, or a schedule that you define, or some webhook or posting to a REST API as a way to triggering now a webhook. And this events that trigger now these jobs, after all, jobs are a bash scripts or actions, which is custom actions that or custom code from GitHub Actions for complex and repetitive tasks. So for example, clone your repo into this CI server, and this CI server, aka as the runner, is the place where it's going to now run your jobs inside of this. So this is now a virtual machines that GitHub Actions provide you to run all of this particularly to run all of these particular jobs, right? So that was quite interesting review. Okay, so all of these jobs can run in singular, in parallel or sequential. Okay, by default it runs on parallel. All right, and because you can run out this particularly custom actions, that in this case like this. All right, and another is that, well, setting a build tool change for your build environment, right? Or for your build environment, and that is useful in this case here with Node. If you now imagine that for React Native, where you need a lot of things to actually running into that before actually run your React Native application. So you need Android Studio as well as Java, and then you also need is Xcode. Right now they're using is Cocoa, Podcast, that kind of things. Like, there's a lot of build tools that it needs to be that need to be settled as a way to start developing is your React Native application. So Jesus. God, oh my God, it's a lot of things going on. Yeah, there is a freaking a lot of things going on. So, one of the things here of this, all right, is that the use case of using this GitHub action, especially for SaaS, is that it is helpful for you to this to say, hey, let me now have this private repo, which the SaaS, and then you also have is a public repo with the open source tools. And anytime you want to bump up the npm versions, you don't need to do that. Is on the so you don't need to is say something like this: hey, I want to create a PR that merged to the master with the new npm version. All right, check that everything actually works as expected, and now publish that on npm registry. So all of that is automated by yourself. So using now these GitHub actions, very, very compelling. The other scenarios is, well, to run the build and testing on pull requests, as well as create a release or create deploy your applications. So deploy your application every time a release is created. Hey, this is the tag that I put here. This is the release that I create here. Hey, let's go to now automate the process of deploying that. And the other is adding a label whenever a new issue is created, right? So this is a couple small things that you can do, which is very useful, especially to maintain these large code bases. Now, when it comes to actually see how can we now look at the process of specifically how you can protect your branch, which is using now these Git branch protections. This is a couple things that you can enable for that. And this is when things like trust and security are a huge concern. That's why we look at now this particularly compliance and policies. For example, in the case of trust and security, and why, for example, now companies are using is the ISO, the SOC 2, this auditing process from which is lay out the foundations of trust. Hey, you are developing this application in the good interest of the consumers and in the goodwill of the consumers. So you have now the SOC 2, which is conducted by the IC. I mean, this is a set of requirements that are designed by the AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountant. There also is another compliance that you must follow for these big companies. Exactly. Another compliance that you must follow for this big company, such as, hey, you're implementing is a security system, an information security management systems. That's why you have now ISO 27001, ISO IC 27001. Hey, are you now implementing is quality management systems? Hey, the product that you actually are implementing, or you are providing this SaaS application, this digital product, actually is now solving the client's problems. Okay, it's not only solving the client problem, that you actually find ways to improve that product and delivering a good customer experience, or the best customer experience. This is now this particular standard, the ISO 9001, where now the ISO 17001 is more about this application must follow this principle: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, as well as non-repudiation. That they have the ability to keep track if everything went wrong. There also compliance like the FedRAMP, which is now the Federal Risk and Authorization Program. That's very, very interesting. The Cloud Security Alliance, the PCI DSS. This is very sensitive, especially for applications like Stripe, right? Or Visa, MasterCard. This PCI DSS, which is the payment card industry data security standards. Quite interesting. And this is just to mention is one of the most popular, depending of course of the type of industry that your application are focusing, or your software are providing, or the company are providing this software, depend of the industry that this company is providing the software. Because there are others that are quite interesting, like HIPAA, for example, in the case of the healthcare, the European banking, financial market supervisors, and this is just to describe briefly each one of them. And the other is the security models. So back in the old days, we have something known as which is something that some companies are still actually using. This is castle in mouth, where now they do everything to actually protect from foreign attackers, like putting is now firewalls and intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system. But once those cross the mouth, it's actually they can do a lot of harm. So they cannot not only inject malicious code or virus, but they can steal credentials, they can perform some social engineering attacks, and exploit system security vulnerabilities. You don't want that. So now researchers from the Gawker, this international firm, you got this Gawker, right? Gawker no, is Gartner. Gartner. I think the meaning of Gartner is like some sort of in Spanish is como una investidura. Gartner. I think it is. Exactly. So this company called Gartner, which is now dedicated to the area of IT consultants and security, one of their analysts make this model known as the zero trust policy, right? And zero trust policy, right, is this IT security model that is now later on implemented by Google in 2010. And this is quite very interesting because then some of the companies actually implement that. And the problem or the these zero trust security models, all right, now is part of the core components of these things known as SASE. And by that I don't mean is the attitude. I mean is the SASE is the security access service edge. It's a fancy word to say, hey, let's go to combine now, especially because now computation has become very cheap. Somewhat, okay? So computation has become very cheap, So now a lot of these companies actually are putting all of their business assets, digital business assets, in all of these cloud providers. Let's say Amazon, Firebase, Azure, all right? So they are putting all of these particular assets in there with the hope that they can now is secure their assets, as well as provide a better way to access to them. So because of this, right, and also that workforce now has become very effective at a distance, which is something that I actually be described here, because now with the compelling cost of cloud-based service and the rise of distributed workforce, because we have been now much more effective at a distance. So if I want to actually fix something that is impact users, especially in a web application, front-end application, it's like, hey, this button is not working. Oh, it's not working. So by actually getting access to that place where the code base is hosted, I analyze where is this button, all right, do some introspections and do some code introspections. I can quickly fix that problems and now let the business go on, right? It's like, oh, now I can actually suggest this, right? I don't know what does it mean. You can send suggestions. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, I can send suggestions. Interesting. Anyway, but anyways, here is like, hey, I want you to now react with an emoji. So I can now enable this particular thing. Again, all of this is just a way to see the impact that now we as remote workers, all right, or remote masons, perhaps the word is not that, it's quite controversial, but this now ability that we can have now much more effective at a distance, at least for in the digital space, all right, and when with the compelling cost of all of these cloud service, now this particular research from Gartner and analysts from Gartner say, hey, we need to actually find a way to build and I make a quick pause because this is an architecture, but we need to find a way to build, which is create an architecture that combine is now network security with network accessibility, right? So that's why now these SASE platforms combine is network as a service. So by implementing is this core technology, zero trust network access, and this zero trust network access, or this zero trust security model, it's a, hey, let's go now to is follow these particular principles, which is let's go to monitoring is access to, as well as the device access. The other is that give the list of privilege to whoever user wants to. So the principle of least privilege. Let's go to micro-segmentate all of this network as a way to actually make lateral attacks or lateral movement from this attacker much more harder to do, all right? Which is when they're getting in a particular network, you're going to now put all of these boundaries, or you're going to segmentate all of this areas that you can have access. So in other words, it's like you having a house that has a lot of freaking doors, and each one of those doors are actually asking you for credential for this next principle, which is multi-factor authentication. That's quite interesting. That's very, very interesting. This particular model, very, very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Absolutely. So this is just one of the components of this, right? The zero trust network access, and exactly the zero trust network access, secure gateway. The other is cloud access security broker, software defined one, which is one as a service. That's to me is quite interesting, bro. That to me is very, 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 very compelling. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And then next generation of firewall. All of this, right, is just as a way to describe that now how when you are going to implement this particular process, like code review. And so we to guarantee that this application actually is now doing what it needs to be done, and to promote is trust and security. That's what we need. That's what I have to do this. That's what I have to hit the brake here. To only describe is that, and also that now how multi-factor authentications use solutions like SSO, which is single sign-on solutions. Like, hey, from this particular place is where now we will handle is all of this. We will handle is the sign-in that the user can have access to all of our other SaaS applications, all the business assets. So that's quite interesting. And then we reach now to the running multiple jobs here. So yeah, we can describe is now how can we run multiple jobs? How can we describe in which particular OS we want to run on from this virtual machine, which to me is like quite powerful. And what we really care about this, which is catching dependencies, right? Let's get into this. Jesus, French toast guy. There is a lot of things going on that we need to discuss, man.
There are some, I'll just call out some of the nuances right now, which is GitHub allows you to store stuff in two ways. We're going to talk about both of them today. One is caching, and the other one is artifacts. Artifacts are like things that you might want after the build process. Caching is more like, hey, multiple things are going to need this thing, like don't redo things. Now, your first gut reaction would be, we should cache node modules. We should cache node modules. Can someone read my own notes to me about what npm-ci does again?
It deletes node modules.
Deletes node modules on every run. So we could cache node modules to delete it on every run. As some kind of like, like we hate ourselves kind of thing. The npm-ci will still set up caching. That looks like a good file to open up. Sweet. And so that step. And the reason we're going to do this a long way, and then I'll show you the short way.
Exactly. So, hey, what the French stuff is this? No. Oh, you are waiting for? Oh, interesting. No, but I don't want to. Hey. Are you continue to do? Oh, shit. Can I not at this thing, please? Oh my god. What I've done. Start again. No, please. Oh my fucking god. I place myself. Oh shit, what I have done. Oh. So anytime I go to, oh no, that's a no. Oh hell, oh that's a huge no, bro. Exactly. It's like, oh hell no. Can I? Oh my god, what I've done. Start again, Jesus. Perplexing. How can I remove myself from a group that no? How can I disable comment in Google Spread, in Google Words? In Google Docs. Exactly. In Google Docs. Set permission, commentary. No, but. Jesus. Isn't. Oh, okay. There you got it. No. Oh, makes sense. Oh my God, no. Okay. That was quite intuitive. All right. Good. So GitHub provides you two ways of storing things that are for a specific use case, right? So one of them is caching, and the other is artifacts. So the caching is, well, because these files wouldn't change that much, let me now is hold a reference, okay? And whenever they change, I'm going to now is, well, call this, right? So this is useful for dependencies. And the other is for artifacts. Because, well, let me now save anytime you produce a anytime a job, okay, artifacts is for saving. So anytime a job produce a file after a workflow, let me save that for you, right? This is something good for mobile and desktop. That's beautiful.
Is that there is a shorthand for doing this that's way easier, but it only works in the very specific use case we're talking about. This way will work.
So let's gonna take a look now at this is catching dependency. The general way.
Work for everything, and so it is work.
Exactly. Catching dependencies, the general way.
Worth looking at both. The one that you could use for other things that are not NPM, and the one that you can use more generally. So other things, if you just want inspiration of where you can use this, is NPM comes free with Node. So setup Node installs NPM. The act of installing PNPM, if that's what you use, is a thing you might want to hold on to, right? And I don't do this because there's nuances around it. The open source project I work on, we do have a CLI binary that actually has a full version of the server baked into it in beta. I don't cache it because I'm too lazy to figure out how to check to have the most recent version. I could, because it's tricky. I could totally do it if I sat down one afternoon to do it, I just haven't. But I might want to store that version of the CLI because we don't change it that often. We change it once a month or something like that. And so there's all sorts of things I might want to cache between runs, and so this action will do it. All right, so let's talk about what it is. So uses, which is just where is this thing located, which is action/cache at v3. Those are kind of like in your package.json. They are locked so that if somebody updates an action with malicious code, you have to go and bump your version to opt into that malicious code, or breaking changes, or malicious code. So actions/cache, that's the repo name, at v3. An ID, that's just some identifier. And then this with, which takes two things: a path, what are you trying to cache? That .npm directory is where npm puts its cache files, right? So everything you downloaded, you hold on to. That's the path that we want to cache and save between runs. And the last one is what is the key, right? And so this is how to check if we should read from the cache at all. And you can be really nuanced with this. You could have for instance, this repo, to my knowledge, does not have any compiled assets, right? I'm looking at you Node SAS, right? Or if you're building an Electron app, something where they're compiled for that operating system and architecture, right? Then you might want to also toss in, this is obviously the markdown file, you might toss in runner.os, right? So now it'll be, okay, we're storing npm caches for Windows, and we'll talk about the last part in a second, right? Whatever unique identifiers that you need. You might want it for given, if you have a weird, if you have, when I say weird, you have any kind of branching strategy to speak of whatsoever, you might use that somehow in here as well. I don't. The more important part is this piece right here. So this is how you do string interpolation. This is a function just provided by GitHub Actions for you, which is cool. Go find the package lock.json, which we know can't change when we're using npm CI, and just relation. This is a function just provided for Windows. Looking at you like Node Sass. Be really nuanced with this. You could hold on to like the repo name at v3, an ID. That's just some identifier. And then this with, which takes with malicious code. You have to go and bump your cache between runs. I just haven't. But like, I might want to store that in beta. I don't cache it because I have not, and I don't do this because there's nuances around it. You know, the open source project I work on, we do have a CLI binary that actually has a full version of the server baked into it in beta. I don't cache it because I have not. I'm too lazy to figure out how to check to have the most recent version. I could, because it's tricky. I could totally do it if I sat down one afternoon to do it, I just haven't. But like, I might want to store that version of the CLI, because we don't change it that often. We change it like once a month or something like that. And so there's all sorts of things I might want to cache between runs, and so this action will do it. All right, so let's talk about what it is. So uses, which is just like where is this thing located, which is action/cache at v3. Those are kind of like in package JSON. They are locked, so that if somebody like updates an action with malicious code, you have to go and bump your version to opt into that malicious code, or breaking changes, or malicious code. Malicious code.
Wait, what? Action/catch. What the French is that? But now the GitHub will remove any catch entries that have not been accessed in over 7 days. There is no limit on the number of catch you can store, but the total size of all catch is in the repository is limited to 10 gigabytes. Damn, no, motherfucker. If you exceed this limit, GitHub will save your catch, but will begin eventing. Oh shit, that's eviction node. Oh crap. Oh shit. But we'll be beginning eventing catch until the total size is less than 10 gigabytes. I'm assuming that it's going to do that with the older one, right? This package is used by the version 2 version and our first party catch actions. You can find example implementation in the catch repo here. Save catch. Save a catch containing the files in path using the key provided. The files will compress on C standard compression algorithm if CSTAN is installed. Otherwise, gzip is used. Functions return the catch ID if the catch was saved successfully, and throw an error if the catch upload fails. Restore catch. So what it's doing here, distro source save in the index.js. Oh, because it's raw. But it's not that raw. Oh, I get it why it's raw. Okay. Source. You have no constant. Restore save ts. Save run. From utils. Actions utils. Like this. Log warning, get input array, and get input as int, get input as boolean. Is catch feature available? And the other is a test utils, but this is not from safe implementation. Okay. Events input and state from constant. Oh Okay, from constants. All of the inputs. Okay, input for catch, store, and save. Okay, inputs, output, state, and event. That's quite interesting. How they define this? It's pretty neat. Save implementation. They say, hey, let's get all of this, and that is when I'm going to start to implement this. This is one single function that is taking now the state provider and is going to return is a promise. Okay, catch and log any unhandled exceptions. Catch and log any unhandled exception. This exception can leak to log chunk and they can. You say, hey, try this. Catch minus ID. If there is no utils, is catch feature available? Please negar. Valid event. If there is not a valid event, don't do this. However, if restore has stored a primary key in state, reuse that, else reevaluate from input. So you got now this primary key, right, which is get the state or get from the core. If the primary key does not exist, well, now log key is not specified, you must pass the particular key. If match restore key is the same as the primary key, then do not save the catch. All right. Util is exact match, so catch hit occur and primary key not saving catch. All right. And then when it comes to actually handle this, you're calling this function get inputs array. The handling is that get input as boolean and then save the catch. This catch that come from the actions here, action catch. Come from the action catch. Which is save catch, and if the catch is different from -1, which is it create, now you have now this particular, look at this, after you create, after you're doing this continuation of this code, because that's what you tell is like, hey, after you get this value, after you wait for this value, okay, or after you perform this function and wait for the value, now I want you to assign this, okay, and check if this is the core. If it is, if this is the, so if we already saved that, hey, we catch that, right? And this is just because you're wrapping this into a sync operation, a sync and a wait operation. If there is any error, you say util log warning error as error.message, and then return the catch ID. Pretty simple, bro. Pretty simple. This is now is safe implementation, and then save only run. This is now when we have to wait for this. Okay, if we get the value that we want, which is a catch, all right, good. Otherwise, we need to print this error here and tell the process, hey, let's go to exit it. Tell no, hey, let's go to exit this. Similar for save and run. Say only run and save run. Node will stay alive if any promises are not resolved, which is possible if HTTP requests are dangling due to retry or timeout. We know that if we got here, all promises that we care about have successfully resolved, so simply exit with success. Early exit. Process exit. All right. So they're using is now this particular JavaScript code that'll be run in this virtual machine. That's interesting. So this virtual machine that after you install that node, it will check for that. But this is now using is this catch dependency and build output in GitHub Actions. Using now this node implementation. That's quite very interesting. That's very, very interesting. What the French toast is this? Free card. Oh, and at GitHub. God damn it. Oh crap. Damn, son. Microsoft and that kind of thing. Staff. Holy moly. Alright. That's quite interesting. Okay, cool. So this is now catch actions. Awesome.
Which is just like where is this thing located, which is action/cache at v3. Those are kind of like in your package.json. They are locked so that if somebody like updates an action with malicious code, you have to go and bump your version to opt into that malicious code, or breaking changes, or malicious code. So actions/cache, that's like the repo name, at v3. An ID, that's just some identifier. And then this with, which takes two things: a path, like what are you trying to cache? That .npm directory is where npm puts its cache files, right? So everything you downloaded, you hold on to, like that's the path that we want to cache and save between runs. And the last one is what is the key, right? And so this is like how to check if we should read from the cache at all. And you can be really nuanced with this. You could have like, for instance, if this repo, to my knowledge, does not have any compiled assets, right? I'm looking at you like Node SAS, right? Or if you're building an Electron app, like something where they're compiled for that operating system and architecture, right? Then you might want to like also toss in, this is obviously the markdown file, you might toss in runner.os, right? So now it'll be, okay, we're storing npm caches for Windows, and we'll talk about the last part in a second, right? Whatever unique identifiers that you need. You might want it for like given, like if you have like a weird, like if you have, when I say weird, you have any kind of branching strategy to speak of whatsoever, you might use that somehow in here as well. I don't. The more important part is this piece right here. So this is how you do string interpolation. This is a function just provided by GitHub Actions for you, which is cool. Go find the package lock.json, which we know can't change when we're using MCI, and just create like a checksum hash, right? If the package lock has not changed, use the cache. If the package lock has changed, which means the dependency have changed, don't use the cache, right? Like, but then that will be a new key, and we'll just get a new cache, right? So basically, the first job that ever comes across this will check to see, hey, do we have a cache key with npm dash, like whatever the unique identifier of that exact package lock JSON? If yes, cool, load up that cache, we'll use that. If no, then go ahead and like do the thing and automatically create it at the very end. We'll look at like the pre and post to see this all happen, but that's kind of the kind of high level piece. So we cache it, and there it is now. Fun fact that if you edit your YAML in a markdown file for your notes, that does not like okay, we're storing npm caches given, no. The more important part is this piece right here. So this is how you do string interpolation.
Key for catch
this is a function just provided by GitHub Actions for you, which is cool. Go find the package lock.json, which we know can't change when we're using npm CI, and just create like a checksum hash, right? If the package lock has not changed, use the cache. If the package lock has changed, which means the dependency have changed.
Okay, so here what I'm doing here is this. Is like, hey, I want now to run.
Don't use the cache, right? Like, but then that will be a new key, and we'll just get a new cache, right? So basically, the first job that ever comes across this will check to see, hey, do we have a cache key with npm dash like whatever the unique identifier of that exact package lock JSON? If yes, cool. Load up that cache. We'll use that. If no, then go ahead and like do the thing and automatically create it at the very end. We'll look at like the pre and post to see this all happen, but that's kind of the kind of high level piece. So we cache it, and there it is now. Fun fact that if you edit your YAML in a markdown file for your notes, that does not.
Which is check out repository, set up node. And then the catch, and then install.
Necessarily change your code. I know this because I used to teach for a living, and you knew it was time to stop when you were editing the markdown file with the code instead of the actual code, and refreshing your browser and wondering why it didn't work.
What are the dashes? Is that just like a semicolon sort of thing?
These dashes?
Yeah.
These are like separating each,
No,
like
separating
name and
each
uses.
one.
Like name. This is like two properties on the same object.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Yeah.
syntax for YAML.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was also a question in the chat. There's also the edit. So I noticed name can be like the first property, but name
Yeah.
is also followed like a run command, and it's that same thing.
The properties can be in any order.
Yeah.
Kind of like keys on an object in JavaScript.
Sure. So a dash pretty much is declaring a new object.
Yeah, it's like a comma. It's basically, you know, sometimes I'm like, it should just be JSON. You know, like, YAML seeks to be easier than JSON. I'm not like sometimes guilty of being a little bit too clever by half. But also like, I am from the era where I had to write CoffeeScript for like a portion of my life, and I'm still hurt by that. So, sweet. And you can put these in any order. If you want to do uses and then name, I can even do like, if you want to really hate myself. And just so we can see it later, what emojis do we like to use? My new favorite is this one. So the melting face, yeah. And I'm mostly putting that so
The
we can see
melting
it.
face.
Like some way to like be like, because the word checkout repository, that could be anywhere. Cool. And so we will also. Oh, I didn't put in. I talked
The
about
melting
caching.
face means
Like,
that.
cool.
Oh
And
no.
we gotta get indentation is important in YAML, so it's like Python too. How many? Like,
But again,
languages
this is
can I see and
just
talk
on
at
the
same time?
unit
Let's
test.
find out. I am a recovering Ruby developer, so I have no right to say anything. And let's actually do this across the two.
Exactly. But you guys
So the first time they're
duplicate
both
that.
going to make a run at it. Pun unintended that time.
That's quite. Well, that's quite interesting. So here, after we want is to run this, because let me in fact switch to whatever we have action workflow test. I think it is. That's right. So the content here will change a little bit, right? There you got it. Polygon. What the French does this? Vitess, unit test. There you got it. Okay. And then here, after we use a checkout as a way to clone this repo to these virtual machines, and then we say, oh, right now you're not able to see what I'm doing, but is this one, right? It's like, hey, I'm doing is this. Okay, so I pull the repo here into this virtual machine that is known as the runner from GitHub Actions. So I'm now going to actually set up the node.js like this using this action. And then I want is to actually is another action here, right? Which is catching. I say, hey, uses this action slash catch version 4, because we're using is this one, because it support node 20, and here because this is using now npm.catch, right? This is, hey, what is the ID here? This is quite interesting, because it's say, hey, yeah, what is the ID that you want to use to catch primes, Okay, interesting. Example of catch flow. Using combination of restore and save actions. Make it simple, bro. Implementation examples. Given with Java and Ruby and Node, Jarna, npm. You can look at the implementation examples here. That's right. Where now it say no, it is not recommended to catch no models as it can break across no version and it won't work with npm CI. It say hey bash shell with exactly for npm catch files are stored in npm as boxes. There you got it. But for bash script you can do something like this. Okay, use this to check for catch hits, which is part of the example that they provide. So I'm not bringing up anything that is not there. That's quite interesting. And we can do something like this. So with the path and that kind of thing, right? So uses the ID, where this ID is used to catch this. Use this to catch for catch hits, right? If the static catch output catch is different for true, okay, as they put it here, to check for catch hit, okay, and with the following argument here. So the path you want to find and look at this, right? You can use this npm catch dir and output there, which is interesting. In our particular case, we want is to catch now is the npm files, which now live. Oh my god, which now live is. Nope. Oh my god, which now live is. There you got it here. Which now live is. On npm, but this is now a private repo or a hidden directory, followed by the key. So you can specify now the runner of this. You can say, hey, this will be node, or simple just using is this as a way to say, hey, I just want is to now is as a way to indicate the key, which is now generating. It's a hash, right? It's a hash that is generating here. For that, that'll be all in our case.
Which is because like the cache will be empty for both of them when they start in parallel, right? But then the next time, one of them will fail writing to the cache, but that's okay, because the reason it will fail writing to the cache is because the other one already did it, right? Which is also like, if you mess this up and just do npm dash, you're gonna have to go in there and manually fix it, and we'll talk about how. So we'll add in those two caches, and let's go ahead and we're gonna say.
So we got all of these two
add
caches.
caching to workflow and push it up. I will hit Command Shift G again to open yet another tab, even though I knew totally that I could have just Command tabbed over. And let's take a look at what we got.
Add an existing repo, choose the repo.
All right, starting the job, setting up the job. You can see there's my happy
enterprise
checkout repository right there. With my multi-emoji face. Thing that I might be doing when I get back to work next week is putting emojis.
That's
in
right.
all of my
Action workflow test.
There's nothing better, no better way to say I'm back from
This is now the
PTO
file that I'm
than causing
changing
chaos.
here, which is what I want.
You can also, it's nice because you can then see where the post is as well. Kind of like,
you say
kind of like it actually. Like I put the emoji in there as a joke,
catch
and I think I'm into it. Because it makes it very clear where the start and end of each one is.
to workflow.
So, pro tip that is hot off the presses: emojis work in your job names and can be useful. Because you'd see set up nodes kind of in the middle there, like they do the post in the opposite order. Emojis work where the post is as well.
Oh, you can actually add some emojis here. to that as a way to see, is like, hey, it's now running. For example, checkout repository, like checkout repository. We didn't even put a name for that, right? Checkout repository. I'm gonna put a name for this, name of checkout repository, followed by a particularly nicely emoji here. This actually does him. Control command. Exactly, control command escape, which is that. So control command escape. Awesome. Okay. And here we can say is melting. No, melting. Hello, melting. Hello, melting. For this, as well as for our build, as well as for our test here. That's quite interesting. Good. Good.
But that's okay. And we're gonna say add. You see, there's my happy
So now when I add this change
checkout
to
repository
this,
right there with my melty
I
emoji
commit
face.
with that.
Thing that I might be doing when I get back to work
and
next
then
week is putting
publish
emojis
to
in all of
your
my
range.
steps.
So no local change, so then I need to do this. The current brand actual workflow hasn't been published to the remote yet. By publishing in the GitHub, you can share it and open a pull request and collaborate with others. Do that. That's right, hang on. It's now sending that stream of data to their servers, and it is done. Preview pull requests. Okay, there you got it, right? Interesting, but can you? No, you didn't. Okay, no problem. So if I go here to this workflow test, and then I say, hey, I already add these kind of things here. When I take a look at this, hide all checks, particularly build and test, waiting for status. I just wanna check out the particular status. Can I? Right. Hide all checks. No, but I want to. Some check haven't completed yet. Expected. Waiting for status to be reported. Require. Build and test. Required status must be passed before merging. All required status. Exactly. So. Build and test expected. Mm. 3 weeks ago. Is this one exactly? Why not? What if I want to actually is see waiting for status to be reported? I want to take a look at the action here. Exactly, it fails. Every step must define as use or run key. Oh, here we go. Every step must define a uses. Okay. I get it. Okay. Really? Really?
And tapped over. No. Right to say anything. Cross the 2. It's because the reason to fix it, and we'll talk about how flow. Thing that I might be doing like that. Let's go ahead and we'll fail right to the cat.
Oh. No, it is. It is. I may not specify that. Use catch V instead of that. And now runs this. Okay, so here we say, hey, change exactly. So change order, change or update uses steps order, right? Reduction work, push to origin. Wait, what? No, I don't want to push to origin. Wait. Exactly. So what the French toast did you do? Actually, is this one of the users now actually is running properly. All right. And when I take a look at this, it say actually is running all of these particular tests, which is a great thing here that you can take a look at the summary, the test and build, that kind of thing. So great. So after the test pass, and the build is still there. You can see post job cleanup.
Just because, I kind of like it actually. Like I put the emoji in there as a joke, and I think I'm into it. Because it makes it very clear where the start and end of each one is.
Yeah, I think I'm into it.
So, pro tip that is hot off the presses:
I'm
emojis work in your job names and can be useful. Because you'd see instead of node is kind of in the middle there. Like they do the post in the opposite order that they came in. Cool. And so also like. If you look like setup job is like lowercase, but then post is then like counts as like I don't know how to handle consistent capitalization in these things, so do whatever you want. There are no rules. Cool. So we run npm CI, we run this one other than the giant hash.
Exactly. So it's now generate a hash for that. That's right. Something that he mentioned here.
It have actions for you, which is cool. Strategy to speak of whatsoever. You might want to like. Does not have any compiled assets, right? Like how to check if we should read from the cache at all.
Check some.
And
check some hash, right? Oh my God, smells delicious. Jesus fucking Christ. Check some. My God, we smell. Accidental change. Checksum is to prevent an accidental change in hash function. Interesting. A cryptographic hash function such as SHA is a checksum that is secure against malicious chains, and it's pretty hard to create a file with a specific cryptographic hash. Exactly. Hash function maps some data to other data. It's a mapping function for that. Giving us the same input, you get the same output. And the checksum. It prevents accidental change. If one byte changes, the checksum changes. Oh, so it now creates a checksum for that. That's what the meaning of checksums is. Alright. Okie dokie. That's quite interesting. Here is where it's supposed to create the checksum. Cache size 50 megabytes. That's great. Temporarily overriding home with before making global git config happens. And here it is on the run catch, right? Post wrong actions here. It say, hey, post jump clean up. It's not cleaning that. Then after that, it say, hey, temporarily overriding home before making git commit. Okay. And cleaning up orphan progress, or in this case process right now. Environment detail, by default it create this. Okay, no problem. And interesting. So set up a job for this. Downloading actions repository, check out v3. Check out setup and catch. Okay, so checksum is a way to guarantee that change were not made to prevent accidental change. So if you're downloading data and for some reason actually is introducing some malicious bytes or code, so you get the data that it is. Okay. Holy moly, bro.
But then post failed to save. It did fail to save. Luckily the error message is pretty good on that.
So in this case, it did not fail because, well, this is our first time. Failed to save, unable to reserve cache with key. In this case, now it actually do that, which is that's post wrong actions. Failed to save, unable to catch. Oh, there you got it. This is it. Failed to save, unable to reserve cache with key npm hash file. Another job may be creating this cache. More detail. Cache already exists. Scope here. Interesting. Similar to this. And post run. Because now the first one, Bill actually created this. Okay, and then the test, it say, hey, someone already created that. So fail to sell. That's great. That's great. Okay, cache already exists.
That's
so,
one, other than the giant
because now cache
hash,
already exists.
Another job may be creating this cache,
Question
which
is
is true.
where can
More
I
details.
look?
Cache already exists.
Exactly.
You can actually see that it was pull request number 2, which is also this PR. So the error message is somewhat helpful in this case. So if we go to build, which finished first, we go into cache, and you
So
can
we
see
can see
instead of
that-
downloading that 45 megabytes every time, we now have it in place. And so I'm somewhat curious, which is the npm CI, which is still relatively small for this repo, was 16 seconds. It does mean you can either rerun all jobs or you can just push a commit. Let's do the polite thing. And while that reruns, we'll go back to running unit test. You'll see that we now have caches here, which is there's our cache. Last used 1 minute ago. And this is useful if you forgot to hash or you messed something up, and now you have a cache that will never be busted. You can manually bust it yourself by hitting this little trash can right here and delete it. Now, I would love to tell you, despite how many times I both read and took notes on the rules around caching, that I remember them while I am live talking to you all. I think it is that like you have a max limit of 10 gigs and anything not accessed in the last 7 days. Like after 10 gigs, it's going to start purging stuff. And I think
exactly. So after 7 days, now it's starting to.
Important note about these caches is, and if you use the hand wavy version of these rules is good enough, which is that cache is also uniquely scoped to the target branch and PRs of that target branch and those branches themselves. That sounds like words, right? Let me explain. Like when main runs its push, it will also set up a cache with this key, right? And that means main will always have access to this cache. Rerunning this workflow, which is what I'm literally demoing as we let it run, will also use this cache, right? However, a different PR with a different branch does not have access to that cache, unless main has it, right? So if main has it, all PRs against main can also access that cache, right?
Okay, this is
reruns and children of those can also access that cache, but like siblings can't, right? You can only, either it's your cache or the target branch's cache. You cannot go across, right?
So cache is only, okay, the general way. Okay. Okay. This is the repo. Some gotchas. Gotchas. Caches are only available. Are not available among siblings. Exactly. Cache are not available among sibling. Yeah, cache are not available among sibling. How the fuck do you do? Yeah, cache are not available among siblings. How do you put it? Among siblings. Yeah, cache are not available among siblings branches. Interesting.
And with a unique cache name like that, and there are tricks you can do, but like let's assume that this is true. So yeah, it's it'll save reruns, but that saves like pushing multiple commits and like whatever. If you haven't changed it since main, you're getting like 80% of the benefit for almost no work, and it'll be even less work in a second. Sweet. So we've got that, and this should have run at this point. Cool. One thing that I notice is it doesn't seem to be really any faster, but let's see. My previous testing, I cut down by like 33% or something like that. So, all right, sweet. So we've got that, and this should have run at this point. Cool. One thing that I notice is it doesn't seem to be really any faster, but let's see. My previous testing, I cut down by like 33% or something like that. So, all right, yeah. So before it was 16 seconds, now it's 7 seconds. Now you'd be like, I don't care. 1, this is a small app. 2, something playwright downloading browsers, hypothetically, a lot bigger than the npm modules. 3, you don't have that. Like if you have a lot of throughput, like it's not just going to run every workflow all the time. Like you'll run like one and you'll queue up the next run for that one to finish. So let's say hypothetically you are more than one person who's talking in between pushes. You're a team, right? And they take longer, right? it does mean that like you will get in line behind your coworkers, right? And so every little speed up then multiplies over the number of runs. And also, like I said, some little node modules for like, I don't even know what the dependencies are in here, like 3 testing frameworks, like both Svelte and React, like some stuff, like 45 megabytes, but not a ton, versus like much bigger caches. Obviously, it pays off a lot more. Luckily, it's no difference between caching big things and caching small things, so we got that going for us. So yeah, you can see at this point, and if you even go in here, you can see it retrieve the cache, you know, and have it all there as well. Root cache stored successfully from this key. Great. So we can kind of get some introspection into that process. Like I said before, you can go into the caches. You can delete any cache you want. If you want as an exercise to yourself to make yourself happy, npm install literally anything, like see if left pad is back or something like that, and go ahead and like push it up and watch it bust that cache. You'll still have the old one there, but like new caches will get that as well.
So, well,
in the case, you can imagine, I have a general rule, which is like, if something seems tedious and common, either there's a faster way to do it, or you should make a faster way to do it. You can.
So that'll be all for this video. Take care.